whatever. But I'm getting used to it little by little. So, for anyone that was watching me, thank you. And, if you could do the like thing, if you haven't already, then that would be good. And the subscribe would be awesome. But only if you feel like it, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, then, just don't do it. But I hope that y'all would feel comfortable doing that like thing. Because I'm pretty comfortable with it now. I have to concentrate on the road as well. First lane now, and there's 4 lanes. I'm up there. Okay, I'm moving over. Alright, this other truck's coming up real fast. I just moved over into this lane, and he was going to have to slow down because the truck that I pulled in behind was going really slow. Anyway, we're just going through Mebane, spelled M-E-B-A-N-E. I used to call it Mebane. And no one knew what I was talking about. So finally someone said, "Oh, you mean Mebane?" Really? It looks like Mebane to me. It's not really one of those towns that you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I wish I lived in Mebane. I really want to move to Mebane, North Carolina." Not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm sure there's a lot of nice people here. They probably have a good senior center and, maybe a good library, a bunch of good churches, I'm sure. Just not the first town that comes to mind when you think of somewhere that you always wanted to live. Except for some people, if their families from there and everything, that might come to their mind, that they want to live in more than anywhere else in Mebane, North Carolina. So I think that's about enough said about Mebane, North Carolina for now. I think I'm still going to call it Mebane. I like that sound better. So, this is the most traffic I've ever run into taking this route on this road before. I've had a lot of traffic, but not like this. Oh, and I just thought of why. Because there are more people and more people with their driver's licenses now and with vehicles than ever before. So that's why it seems like a lot more traffic, because it is a lot more traffic. On the right side, it looks like I might be getting home a little earlier than I expected. I expected to be home about 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. And might be a little bit earlier than that. Going home always seems to go by faster than when you're going initially on the trip. On the trip, when you're going somewhere, especially for the first time, it seems like it takes a long time. Going home, to me anyway, it always seems to go by a little faster. And thank God, too. I don't know why, though. Because you've already gone that, well, you may have gone that way once. surgeries. They're really nice. They set up a bed for me and everything right in her room. They had her in a big room for recovery from her surgeries, and like they don't have regular visiting hours there, or if technically they do, they don't tell you about them. They just let any relatives visit all they want whenever they want. Like where I'm originally from, up in New England, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, you can't just visit someone in the hospital whenever you want. It's got to be visiting hours, and the nurses come in when visiting hours are getting ready to end, and they remind you that everyone's got to be out by a certain time, and they come in to make sure that you are, because you're only allowed there during visiting hours. It doesn't matter who you are, and if you miss the visiting hours, then you have to wait till the next day, because they're very strict about that where I'm from up north. But down here, they're much more civilized about it, and nicer about it, and sweeter about it. They brought me fluffy pillows and nice blanket that smell good. Like I said, set up the bed. It was a pull-out couch bed, a really nice one, in front of the windows. She had long glass windows in her room. My wife did, and it was on about the 10th or 11th floor, and I told the nurses several times whenever they asked if they could pull out that bed for me if I was planning on spending the night, I said I probably will spend the night, but this couch is definitely comfortable enough. But so sure enough, they did anyway. They pulled it out, they put sheets on it, they said, well, we fixed your bed up for you. And I think, wow, what a difference, between this Southern Duke University and, like, the hospitals that I was used to going to up north. Not that I went that much, but whenever you did visit anyone, you could only go during visiting hours, especially kids. Just about everything I learned about making videos, I learned from watching just a handful of people doing it on YouTube who are, as far as I'm concerned, the real experts, the real virtuosos. And that is, I don't know if I can mention their names, but I guess I can, because I'm just giving them compliments, and I'm saying that I'm not copying them. I never actually copied anyone. I do my videos the way I do them, and Lord knows it's not not at all the same as these experts do theirs. Maybe in 100 years or so I can polish it up enough so it looks half as good as theirs, but one of the number one persons I learned a lot from was Sherry Lorraine, especially the live streams. She's real good at that. I still don't even know a tenth as much as her about doing it. And Simply Kel from Brisbane, Australia, she's another one that I learned a lot of the hand movements from, because they all do hand movements. I learned a lot of hand movements from all of them, even though I've only done hand movements in a few of my videos. that is a trigger that helps relax people too. You know, hands and arm movements, especially when combined with certain sounds. And another one is Sarah Lavender. She is a real expert at ASMR techniques. I was going to say tactics. She is an expert at ASMR tactics and techniques, and I'm sure tactical techniques. Anyhow, she's been doing it for quite a while. I remember one time, I think I read somewhere, because you can read about them on the internet and stuff. I'm not sure how I know this, but I read that a couple of the other ladies that do the ASMR said that Sarah Lavender was already doing it when they started, and that they kind of, now don't quote me on this, but from the gist of it that I got, they kind of looked up to her to emulate her a little bit because she was so experienced when they started and she knew different techniques. And she is good as far as her techniques go and everything. And her look and her speaking voice is really good. But she's not so much into the business sense as far as making money and doing every little thing she can to make as much money out of her audience as she can. They're not all like that, you know. A lot of them don't even ever even really mention it, you know. Although now, and Sarah Lavender, I've never heard her mention money on her YouTube show either. Although now she does have at least 3 big products that I can think of that she advertises, and usually she'll do one advertisement in 1 hour-long program segment, and she'll do it in the beginning to just get it out of the way, you know, like Helix beds, that's one. And she does say a lot of good points about them. And a couple other things which I can't think of right now. We actually have a lot of traffic here. It looks like it's coming to a stop. Boy, that Blue Ridge Parkway did a number on these brakes. I'm going to need new brakes now just from going on that parkway. And as I mentioned a while back, I don't know how good you could hear me on the other live stream, but I kept shifting down, you know, so I wouldn't have to use the brakes as much. But these brakes are just all but shot right now there, so I really have to pump them to come to a stop. I figure I can make it home with them okay, but I'm going to need to either do a brake job myself or bring it somewhere to have the brakes done. And but the car's got 100,000 miles on it. It's probably due for a brake job anyway, but whatever was left of them on the parkway really finished them off. If you're going to spend any amount of time on that Blue Ridge Parkway, you have to make sure your vehicle is running in tip-top shape, especially the brakes. But you pretty much can plan to replace your brakes if you're going to go 50 miles or more, I would say, on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And it goes a few hundred miles, I believe, because I'm not sure exactly how far it goes up or down, but it's pretty long. And it's all up and down mountains. So I already am gonna need a brake job when I get home. And praise the Lord so far about the transmission. I don't want to speak anything negative into existence about this transmission. So far it's running good. God sent an angel to get it going nice for me, or he just did it himself, he or she, so knock on wood, praise the Lord that so far so good, and I'll be able to make it home. I still am kind of praying to myself about that, and sometimes even out loud too. See, I've got, you're not looking at me, you're looking at the front view still. Oh. There I am. See, I've got my Leo, which some of the people at the church I go to call this the Lion of Judah, because it's a silver lion face in the middle. I got it at TJ Maxx because, number one, it's Leo the Lion to me, and number two, it was on, I think, a half price sale. It was pretty good. It was about $15, but it's a nice thick chain and everything, silver plated. I like it. And this one here, you can't probably see her too good, but this is Mother Gaia, and I put her on a new chain too, because she just came with a little string chain. And this is a nice Gaia, picture of Gaia, nice depiction, because she's got trees growing out of her back, which I think is kind of interesting. She does support all of nature. And I was wearing my Eternal Ganesha, which, if you're not familiar with that, is an Indian god, not a Native American, but a regular Indian god, Ganesha. And that is the one with the boy with the elephant head, because the story goes, he got his head cut off, accidentally of course, and his father or someone there, a grown-up, cut the head off the elephant and quickly stuck it on his body, and that saved him. But he had the wise elephant's head on his body from then on. That's why Ganesha, the eternal Ganesha they call him, is always depicted with an elephant head on a human body. It's Indian, like, folklore, religion. And also, that same Ganesha is supposed to be in charge of and responsible for financial gain, if you will. Getting money, sometimes getting riches. That Ganesha is supposed to be good to have for that kind of thing. Now, many Indians have little statues of Ganesha in their houses, in their apartments, in their dwellings, and boy, they get real expensive. Even for a tiny little Ganesha statue is, $12 or $15, and then they just go up and up and up. The sky's the limit, depending on how big they are, what they're made of. It can be a couple $1,000 for a statue of Ganesha. And the jewelry is the same, basically. It can range from relatively expensive to really expensive. But I like Ganesha. And to me, I don't complicate religion. that the idea of Ganesha and Mother Gaia can serve right along perfectly with Jesus and God. Jesus, I call Jesus Father God, and Jesus God's Son. He has the power of God, the way I see it, because God gave it to him. But you know, even he refers to his Father as his Father. You know, so anyway, the way I look at it, if people want to get technical about it, I just say, well, the eternal Ganesha, for one thing, is eternal because he lives forever. He's in the spirit world, but he can come in the regular world. Anyway, Ganesha and Mother Gaia, you know, work for Jesus, you know, and they work for God. Even if they may be called gods themselves, it's not in the sense, as far as I'm concerned, as the one and only creator of everything, you know, including themselves. So, I gotta get over to that way. Oh, I don't like doing this. I think I've got to get over one or two. At least, I'm gonna have to thread the needle here. Okay, I don't have any choice. Well, it's the first time I've ever done that like that. I mean, hey, I still got a lot of Boston driver in me, but that only means I'm a good driver. But so much traffic here, it seemed like the only way I was going to get in this lane. And I have to stay on this road to go where I want to go. Wow. For a Sunday. This is an immense amount of traffic. Look at all those brake lights up there. Look, you might go right down to the floor. You better keep a safe distance. You always have to watch the brake lights of the person in front of you when you're in a lot of traffic, especially stop and go traffic. But all traffic has the potential to stop and go, or just anyone in front of you has the potential to just stop anytime. You know, I saw a huge elk last night, just as it was starting to get dark. It was still light enough, and he was right on the side of the road, like grazing on some grass, and it looked like eating a leaf off a tree or something. And this elk was as big as a moose, except he had elk antlers instead of moose antlers. And that was the first time I looked out my passenger window, I glanced out, and there he was. You know, and I was going pretty slow, and I slowed down even more, and he didn't care about me. You know, he wasn't interested in me. He was interested in just eating his grass. But, you know, his back legs and his back end were a little bit out in the road. He was huge. I know no one would have wanted to hit him or her. But that was just up there last night. There's a lot of elk around. Say there's 8 black. I read an article last night, brochure, about the Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina, and they say there's 8 black bears for every 1 hiker in the Pisgah National Forest. However, and this which I already knew from first-hand experience, I've been around bears up in New Hampshire in the wild, and they usually don't bother humans, not black bears. They're not like grizzlies. You know, the grizzly bears, the big Kodiak bears, the big giant brown ones, you know, now they can just not like humans. They can just want to swipe a human's arm right off or something like that. But black bears are more timid. They're smaller. They're, I think, fully grown, only about half the size of a grizzly, if that. But when they're down on all fours, they come up to about my waist, you know, maybe a little higher when they're down on all fours. Black bears can, of course, stand up too. And, you know, people on TV, you see people climbing up trees to get away from bears. Well, that would never work in real life because bears are excellent tree climbers. Brown bears, grizzly bears, and black bears. And they might not want to try to climb a tree at the time, but they could if they wanted. They've got big claws. Can stick right into trees. But anyway, so the black bears, whenever I saw them, like I was standing behind my car once with the trunk of the car opened up, and I had my tackle box opened up in the trunk of the car, and I was tying on a lure onto my line, a fishing lure that I was going to be using. And I saw this bear poke his head up from this ditch at the tree line on the edge of this dirt road that I was standing on behind my car. Just lumbers up and he looks at me for a while, and my voice was paralyzed. I kept trying to say, a bear, to tell my friends, but I didn't dare yell or scream, so that's as loud as I could say it. And I didn't want to disturb the bear. And he just lumbered up behind me, and then, you know, he walked behind me, just a couple feet behind me. I didn't turn around. And I just let him walk behind me. But I did look behind me once he wasn't behind me anymore. And then he scampered up a hill that was there on the other side of that dirt road. So that black bear, he was plenty big, you know, but he didn't want to bother me. And the other black bears that I've seen in New Hampshire a lot is kind of a sad case in a way, but not in another way, because people put out food for them, and it's the same place where they have the city dump, actually. People have trash and garbage there, but people put out extra food there for them sometimes too, even though you're not really supposed to feed bears. But people like to go there and watch the bears, so they do. And you can go there any given time. This is up in northern New Hampshire, and see black bears every night, you know, 7 days a week, 7 nights a week. And they do not approach humans, especially if there's more than one human, and especially if there's a little group of humans. Black bears are never going to approach them. Like I said, maybe a grizzly, if it was an angry grizzly, or one other reason that you probably guessed already is if they have young. If the cubs, and they think you have their cub, or they know that you're holding their cub or petting their cub or too close to their cub, then any animal will get a little bit belligerent with a human under that circumstance. But in general, black bears just don't really want to have anything to do with humans. But so they say in this article I read last night that for every one hiker in the Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina right now, there are at least 8 black bears in those same woods right now. So that's kind of an interesting, fun fact, I guess. And a lot of hikers today on the parkway. There are a lot of trailheads, beginnings of trails on the Blue Ridge Parkway. Some of them lead out to waterfalls, and some lead out to primitive camping areas, and some are just trails that can lead to both of those places, or just be loop trails or attached to other trails. But anyway, there's a lot of trails, thus there's a lot of people on the Blue Ridge Parkway, especially in summer. But today it was supposed to be like 74 degrees, so maybe that's why there are so many out there on the parkway. Boy, this is kind of tiring. I got about 2.5 hours sleep last night. Not straight, not all together, but during the course of the whole night I did, so that's pretty good for me. I don't sleep that well. I sleep better than I used to, because if I'm really, really tired, I can get up to 3 hours sleep. But I didn't even sleep that good when my wife was still alive, because between her and the animals, I always felt like I couldn't take a sleeping pill, because what if there was a fire or someone tried to break in or something like that? Someone would have to stay awake to warn the others, and that would be me. So sleeping too much, and usually taking out, but I don't like to take sleeping pills anymore, because I'm the type of person also that I never know what chemicals are going to do to me. Even the same chemicals and the same amount, the same milligrams, everything might affect me one way one night, and the next night affect me totally differently. That's the way my body and brain are. And I know people that can take like one sleeping pill every night, just enough to get to sleep, and it's fine with them. But me, I don't know what it's going to do to me, actually. I mean, the most it's going to do is make me stay in bed too long the next day and not be able to wake up the next day for several hours. But I don't want that to happen. I never want that to happen. So I just usually don't take them at all. Boy, this car's been making some pretty strange sounds since that happened on the parkway today. And it was right before finally getting on all the way to getting to the point where I'd be able to get on. I thought there were a lot more exits on it. But no, I only saw 2. The one I got on in Cherokee, oh, and there was one that just said 215. It didn't even say the name of a town or anything. And then there was one for Asheville, which I was just about to get off when this happened. But it was a pretty beautiful day. I still had a fun time, really fun driving on the parkway, especially since I was by myself too. I usually always used to hate doing things by myself, myself, and even if I could find people to do things with me, I still might be better off doing things by myself because they might not want to do them the same way as me, or the same time as me, or the same amount of time as me. There's just so many factors involved in doing things with other people. Now, me, personally, I'm a Leo. Leo the Lion, L-E-O, astrological sign. And as far as I'm concerned, I would rather go out with another Leo or be married to or whatever, have a girlfriend that's another Leo, because ideally, if I could have someone that thought exactly like I did, that would be the perfect mate for me. And people say, oh no, that would be boring. Don't you know opposites attract? Well, maybe, but number one, I think that's stupid. And number two, what do they mean boring? Because someone agrees with everything you say? To me, and I would venture to say every other Leo, that would not be boring, and there would be nothing negative about someone agreeing with everything you say, because it's just confirmation anyway. Now, I don't mind people disagreeing with me if they back up their points and give me some valid reasons for their opinions. There's been many times when I have amended or even completely changed my mind and my opinions based on logical arguments by friends and other people. If they give me enough of a reason, or reasons, I will change my mind and I'll do it their way from now on if I think it's better than the way I was doing it, So I'm not completely stubborn at all when it comes to that, whereas some people are. Some people really are. But if no one's going to give any reasons or back anything up that they say, then what's the point? But we already have a president that does that, who's not a real president, but I didn't want to get into talking about politics. But I will say this, because this is just a fact for me. It may not be your experience, but every single time I've ever watched Fox News, and I have tried many times, because I do want to hear their points of view, and I've never heard one person, a newscaster, back up anything they say. It just, they come up with these things, and I'm waiting, okay, so where did you hear that? Who did you hear say that? Now, when was that? Was that a journalist? What country were they from? Were they Americans? Nope, they don't answer any of those questions, and a few other questions that I've never heard them answer is who, what, where, when, or why. Oh, the who. They'll say the who plenty of times. Oh, the Democrats did this. Pick one. They all suck. They're all bad. It was one of those Democrats. Well, do you have a name? Can you think of their name? Can you think of when they did it? What were the circumstances? No. I've never heard of filling any information like that to back up anything they say. That's why I don't really watch Fox News. I've given it a try several times. But I think that's just going to have to be the end of my politics for now. Because that's just my opinion why I don't care for the newscasters on Fox News and watching them. It's not that I hate them or anything like that. It's not even that I hate Fox News. It's just that if I'm hearing someone telling me something, especially if it's a newscaster, then I want them to back it up with some facts, hopefully, or at least some educated opinions or guesses or something to answer those simple questions: who, what, where, when, how, and why. Now they might not know the why, but they should be able to answer at least 3 or 4 of those questions, or at least 3, and have a relatively good guess about the other ones, but not just totally disregard those questions. But that's been my experience whenever I've watched it. Whereas, on the other hand, I've watched some people and listened to a lot of people in Congress and senators and politicians like that who really have backed up everything they've said with examples, answering all those questions: who, what they said, what they did, when they did it, why they did it if they know, and how they did it. And I like listening to those kind of people sometimes because it adds some credibility to what they're saying. And anyway, so that's my comment on that. I don't know if you'll ever hear me mention anything about politics again. Probably not. I was not talking about that or Fox News in regards to politics. I was just using them as an example of people talking to me and not backing up anything they say with any facts or answering any questions like who, what, where, when, why, and how. So I was just using Fox News as an example for people not backing up what they say like that. I wasn't putting them down politically or even talking about them politically. I didn't even mention any political issues. I just mentioned their methods as far as has been my experience whenever I watched it. But still, I will try to steer clear of anything that can be even remotely regarded as politics, because that's not a stress reliever. And I'm all about the stress relief and the relaxation and being able to calm yourself and be relatively stoic. I'm not a hardened stoic like the Stoics on YouTube. As far as the definition of stoic, I always thought it just meant quiet and unperturbed, cool, calm, level-headed, cool head. That's what I always believe stoic means. And it does mean all those things, the stoic philosophy. But it means a few other things too. And number one is being calm, which I'm trying to do now, in spite of all this 5 lanes of traffic all around me. I've got 4 lanes to my right and 1 lane to my left, not counting the one that I'm in. Boy, these cars are really leaving around a lot. I'll give you a little look-see. See if it switches. Yeah, there we go. See those brake lights? Oh, boy, I hate that. See, now all the cars, I just had to tap my brakes a little bit, so all the cars behind me are pulling around me, so I can't even pull out. That's all right, though. Because now the truck in front of me will speed it up a little bit. Oh, a sign for Raleigh. That's a sign that I'm getting close to home. far from Raleigh. It's roughly an hour, a little less, depending on the traffic, that is. Now, Raleigh is the capital of North Carolina, but it also has a lot of traffic. There are so many people living in Raleigh now. I don't know how much it's expanded in the past 10 or 20 years, but there must be at least 10 times as many people here now than there was then. And, well, like all the roads around Raleigh now, they used to be just 1 or 2 lane roads. Now, all the major roads are like 4 lane roads. And so they've been doing a lot of road construction over the years to ease the traffic congestion issue in Raleigh. But it can still be one of the most gridlocked cities that you can think of. Raleigh-Durham Airport sign. Okay, great. Aviation Parkway. Yeah, Raleigh has a nice airport, international airport. It's about as big as Logan in Boston, maybe bigger. And they've got an excellent shuttle system and off-site parking and on-site parking with many levels. And I've flown out of there several times. Even Asheville's got a nice little airport, and that's not even that little either. And I've flown in and out of there a few times too. I like a small airport, you know, easier to get around and quicker. So Raleigh can get pretty congested. Well, usually when I drive to Alabama, many times Raleigh is the most congested, toughest city to get through. And that's just the first one, you know, compared to even Atlanta or Montgomery, any of the big cities like that. Raleigh's at least as congested, if not more, than the other southern cities. Boy, I went past places today that I had gone to with my wife when we were staying at different places, traveling in Cherokee, and one was a helicopter ride that we went on, and the guy was nice. He took us all over the city, I mean above Cherokee, the city of Cherokee, and we had a photo, well, we took a photo of she and I standing in front of the helicopter, and she blew it up and framed it and everything, so it looks like our helicopter. We had it in our living room and would always say, yeah, that's us standing in front of our helicopter. Yeah. But anyway, we did ride in that helicopter. We just paid to do it. Not that bad though. It was $25 a person for about an hour, you know, of a ride all around. Guy tells you all about the city and everything. And I drove by there today, and it was just like a broken down, dilapidated old shack where the helicopter ride office was in. But there was no helicopter there anymore, and the yard was all overgrown, and there were many places like that. Things have just really changed. Either that or they're just not there anymore. But I guess that's natural. Those things do change. Hopefully for the better. Well, here I am again. Losing power. Losing power. Gotta get over. Oh no, that same thing is happening. In drive. This is just what happened last time. I better stay here. I better try shutting it off. I wonder if it'll go in reverse. Nope. It's exactly what it did last time. Okay. I better put my... Boy, Lord, please let it work. Okay, I guess I'll shut this off for now. Say a prayer for me. I'm broken down on the highway. But this is just what it did on the parkway, and then a few minutes later it started and it drove all this way, so we'll see. Lord, please let it start.